Have you ever thought of taking a more holistic approach to your health through something like gardening? We're going to show you all sorts of plants with medicinal properties. Then it's off to a citrus orchard to learn about their fruit and a new variety you've probably never seen before. You'll also get introduced to how to make an essential oil. Then into the garden to plant a bare root tree. So join me, Nick Federoff, today on Things Green.
Things Green is brought to you in part by
Super Thrive, the original vitamin solution. 50 vitamins and nutrients. Vitamins for trees, plants, and lawns. More information at superthrive.com.
Southland Sod Farms, creators of genuine marathon sod. Pre-grown tall fescue grass. More information at sod.com.
Dram Garden Products, makers of watering tools since the 1940s. Committed to saving water with handheld tools, hoses, and water wands. More information at dram.com.
With continued support from Cole Tomato Cages, planting, growing, and harvesting. More information at colemetals.com.
AdviceRadio.com. Live and on-demand internet radio programs. A proud sponsor of Things Green.
And by Sustainable Environmental Education, hands-on workshops, classes, and seminars. More information at csonline.org.
We're here at the Los Angeles Arboretum. I'm looking for a friend of mine to kind of help me out. You see, she knows all about the medicinal plants in this place. And we got to remember that when we're talking about medicinal plants, should you be on any kind of medication, check with your physician to make sure that the plants we talk about are okay for you. Other than that, let's try to find out where she's at. This place is huge. Hi Jill, how you doing?
Hey Nick.
Rumor has it you have a pulse on the medicinal plants that are growing in this place.
I sure do.
Can you show us?
I'd love to.
Oh, great. Wow, look at this ginkgo. You're so fortunate to have something like this.
Isn't it beautiful?
It really is.
It's one of my favorites. Very ancient tree.
Yeah, the canopy on it is just gorgeous. And the thing I really like about it is that the leaf structure on this is one of the most simplest forms that you're going to find on this earth. Now, with that in mind, we know that there's some medicinal values to these.
There is. There's traditional medicinal values, which have to do with memory loss and preservation of blood flow to the brain and things like that.
Well, I've got the memory loss thing all the time. I can never remember when to take the trash out. So we could take these leaves and we can brew them in a tea.
Correct.
Now, there are male and female plants here, and this is a male plant.
This is a male plant. The male plants are widely available in the nursery industry. The female plants, not so much, and I think you can see why here. Here are some of the seeds, and they're pretty stinky, but we can also use them in cooking, and they will have the same properties.
And I would imagine we can steep them and make tea out of it as well.
Absolutely.
Hey, look at this. We have something that's pretty special here.
Faux tea, also known as the elixir of life.
Oh, I sure like that. Now, I understand that this is a plant that you normally can't buy at a nursery.
Right, you got to grow it from seed. So I get it online. I order online seed from.
Very nice. Now, what are the medicinal values to this particular plant?
Faux tea is a tonic, and it's going to help with to lower blood pressure if you've got high blood pressure, good blood flow. It's going to give you vitality. It's going to give you a lot of energy.
So how would you end up using this?
The roots of this plant are used, Nick, and you traditionally they're made into a stew with black beans.
Oh, is that right? So you dig the plant up, wash it off, and then you would use them from there.
Right, and cook with the roots.
How nice.
How about we go look at something else?
All right, sounds good. Let's go.
Nick, this is going to look familiar to you, but I think you're going to learn a couple of new things.
Hey, look at that. You got a patch of calendulas here.
Calendula, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so these have medicinal value.
They do have medicinal value, and it's the petals that are used, but this is more of a topical. You're not going to ingest it, but you can boil the petals, you can boil the leaves, you can make packs out of them, you can make packs out of the leaves as well, along with the petals of the plants. And this is used as an antifungal, antiseptic, disinfectant. You're also going to find it in a lot of creams and lotions and things like that, beauty products, cosmetic products.
Which is a really good point, because whenever we're talking about medicinal plants, sometimes we always think, well, it's all about ingesting them and that type of thing and cooking them down into something. But here we have something totally different. Calendulas are one of these plants that are so easy to grow.
They're a no-brainer. They're super easy to grow. You can grow them either from seed, or you can go to any garden center and pick up a pony pack, put them in the ground, and they're going to bloom most of the year.
As long as you have some full sun, you're rocking and rolling.
Absolutely. How about we go look at some other flowers that I think you're going to find pretty interesting?
All right, that sounds really good.
Okay.
How many acres do you have over here?
127 beautiful acres.
Wow, speaking of beautiful, look at this.
You know what this is.
Hollyhocks. Anybody that's got a grandmother has grown one of these.
Has grown one of those?
Yeah, look at these beautiful pink flowers. So we have some medicinal values to this?
We do, and for a guy in your line of work, this is particularly valuable because hollyhocks can help you with a dry cough, a sore throat.
Yeah, with all the talking I do. Indeed. But what am I doing? Am I nibbling on the leaves and the flowers or what?
No, you're going to boil the leaves and the flowers and the petals of the flowers. You're going to bring it down to room temperature, and then you can use it as either a gargle, or you can just go ahead and drink it.
Is that right? Now, I know this particular plant can grow pretty much anywhere in the United States.
And you can grow it from seed, or you can grow it from transplants, from pony packs, readily available, easy to grow.
Excellent plant to have. Okay, now this is Jill's domain, isn't it?
It is, the Victorian Rose Garden.
Indeed. Okay, we've got ourselves some rose hips here.
We do have rose hips.
How nice is that?
Rose hips are the seed and the fruit of the flower.
Okay, so after the flower has been spent, this is what grows on it.
At the end of the season, yes.
Okay, now we normally wouldn't equate a rose as a medicinal plant, but
rose hips have wonderful qualities. Anytime you see this orange color in nature with persimmons or citrus, you're going to think vitamin C, beta carotene.
There you go. And these have a little bit extra vitamin C in it than an orange do.
50% more than citrus.
How nice is that? So how would you prepare something like this?
You can steep them into teas, you can cook them into food, you can make jams and jellies out of the rose hips. But I would say this, Nick, that when you see the roses actually starting to throw the rose hips, cut back on the pruning or stop the pruning altogether and let the rose go through its natural season. We all go through our seasons, and the roses do too, and this signals the rose physiologically to kind of start slowing down and get ready for winter, and it'll just kind of mellow out into
just
winter after that.
There you go. I like that idea.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is. Jill, I want to thank you very much for allowing us to come over here to the gardens and having you share your experience and your knowledge with us. Greatly appreciate that.
It's been a fun, wonderful day, Nick. Come back and see me again sometime soon.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Case, and for today's Healthy Trend, we're going to be talking about essential oils. Well, what exactly are these? These are aromatic compounds that are found in flowers, trees, leaves, you name it, pretty much anything in nature. So we've gathered some lavender, and we're going to go ahead and make a topical preparation. So what you're going to want to do is place the lavender in a baggie, because we're going to want to bruise this up to release those aromatic compounds. And you're going to place it in a jar. You can cover this up with any type of oil that you would feel comfortable putting on your skin. I really like almond because it smells great. So we're gonna go ahead and pour the oil in the jar to cover this lavender. Now this is something that you're gonna want to leave on the windowsill in the sunlight for about 48 hours. So we're gonna cover it up with the oil, put it in here, and you're gonna wanna give this a good shake every at least 12 hours for the next couple days. You're gonna go ahead, take a strainer, and pour all of this wonderful oil into a dark container. And you can use this any way that you would a regular moisturizer. The great thing is this has the benefit of the lavender, which helps you to relax. So it's wonderful to put in your bath or put on your ears or your wrist right before bedtime. Hope you enjoy it, and happy gardening.
citrus plays an important part in history. As a matter of fact, several hundred years ago, when people were migrating to America from the old land, they would get on these ships and then they would take these citrus trees and they would grow them on the ship. And they would harvest off of them because it would take several months to get to America. You see, citrus was an important thing to keep scurvy at bay. Later, it was found out that it was the vitamin C in the citrus that helped them the whole time. Whenever you think about citrus, chances are you've got lemons, grapefruits, and even oranges on your mind, and justifiably so, because they're so easily grown in the landscape as well as in agriculture. Well, there's so many different varieties of citrus, it'll just boggle your mind to think about it. For instance, here's one that is called an Australian finger lime, and if you're to pick its little fruit off, these little bad boys get up to 3 inches long. They kind of look like peppers, but they're actually citrus. When we open it up, we're gonna find out why we also call this thing lime caviar. It's due to its internal flesh being encapsulated in these small round balls. They look just like caviar, but it tastes like lime. You could take and use this in salads or even in drinks or just whenever you need that wonderful lime flavor. It has recently been introduced in the marketplace, so ask for it by name at your local nursery and garden center. It is going to be getting to about 8 feet up to 22 feet tall, so it's a big plant, and it will need full sun, and also a great conversation piece. Wow, look at the size of these beautiful white grapefruit, which are, by the way, normally kind of on the sour side and they leave that bitter aftertaste. You may want to consider their cousin, the pomelo, quite a bit larger than the white grapefruit and much tastier if you ask me. When you slice into this thing and you start eating it, much sweeter, and you don't have that bitter aftertaste that can last for a long time. There's also something that's really neat about this pomelo hidden deep inside. And the only way we're gonna find out what's deep inside is by cutting it up. And look what happens when you open this up. That is so beautiful. We're talking about a citrus fruit here that is loaded with vitamin C. It's got potassium. It's even fat-free. And on top of that, something very special is going on here with this very thick rind. Let's just say, for instance, that you live in an area that gets some frost. Well, what happens to your fruit? It gets frostbitten, kind of dries up on the inside. This rind is designed to help protect it. Therefore, you have less of a chance of it getting frostbit. That's great. During the California gold rush days back in the 1850s, a fascinating thing was happening. People were yelling, "Eureka!" for 2 reasons. Number 1, for the gold that they found. The second reason, for these Eureka lemons. Eureka lemons were fetching a price of about $1 a piece. That's a lot of money in today's world. And for good reason too. These yellow gems over here are just loaded with the vitamin C that they needed. And on top of that, if you're going to be using lemons for culinary purposes, many times they'll ask you for the zest of the lemon. The zest is the yellow part of the lemon rind. All you need to do is to peel this back without taking any of the white stuff, and you're ready to go. When you think vitamin C, you have to think oranges. It's just natural to do so. Oranges are also packed with vitamin A, B, E, and they're great for iron absorption. I really love an orange plant, especially when it blossoms, because the flowers smell so citrusy. And why not? It is a citrus. There's a lot of different varieties, which allows you to plant them so that you're able to have oranges basically all year round. When one stops fruiting, another one takes over, and so on. Now, there's something about citrus that you have to realize. They're not going to go deciduous and lose their leaves. Oranges, as well as all citrus, are evergreens. That means that they're going to have leaves on them all year round. These may look like orange berry bushes, but they're not. They're kumquats, and they're pretty much at full size. This is a pretty fascinating plant because the fruit itself is high in fiber. The tree as a whole can withstand temperatures down to about 20 degrees, which is really unheard of in the world of citrus. Unlike their counterparts where you're normally looking at the inside of the fruit for the juices and all that, well, here the sweetness is in the rind. As you can tell, there's a lot of nutrient value to having citrus in your home, yard, and garden. You can find one that best suits your palate, whether you like the sour ones or whether you like the sweet ones. And on top of that, they're great for growing in the ground or in a container. The choice is yours.
Bare root trees basically are trees that, of course, have no soil. The main advantage to a lot of people is a less expensive price to them. Depending on the variety, some of these can be as almost half price compared to buying it in the container later on. Basically, you're not having to pay for the packaging. You're not paying for that 5-gallon bucket or the soil that comes with it. This is just the bare root tree itself. They look like they're dead, but they're very much alive. What you can do, you can always take your fingernail to one of the branches, scratch that, and if you see the green on you, then you know you still got some life. We put them into containers here with some soil to keep them moist, so that way they don't dry out on you. We will water these twice a day, in the morning and at night, to keep these well hydrated during the course of their stay here at the nursery then. Obviously, the bare roots can only be deciduous types of trees and trees that lose their leaves. So hence you won't find an avocado or citrus in a bare root. That's just not going to happen. That could be peach, plums, nectarines, cherries, pomegranates, and of course we'll have the berries in here, and grapes. People do come in to get their grapes because they will be considerably cheaper there too. We'll pull them out of the container here and we'll wrap it up, put it in a bag for you, and then take it home, keep it well hydrated, soak it in a bucket overnight with say B1 or Super Thrive, so it becomes well hydrated, and then plant it out the next day and water it every day. Even if it's raining, we tell you. Keep that thing hydrated until you see the first leaves coming out.
I can't seem to find it. Have you seen it? Maybe you've seen it. What about you? Have you seen it? I can't seem to... Oh, there it is. Who put it there? Hey, what do you say that we plant this tree right here? No, not this giganormous one. This one right here, can't figure out why it's there, but this is a bare root tree, and that's how that big tree got started. The dealio with bare root plants is that, as the name implies, they're bare rooted. There's no soil on them whatsoever, and you'll only find them like this when the weather gets cold and the plant loses all of its leaves and it becomes deciduous or it lays in dormancy. And that's really important for a plant to do because it's storing up all kinds of this energy inside of it so that when the weather does warm up, it's gonna bloom and blossom like you can't imagine. As with all plantings, don't forget the 3 S's: sunlight, space, and soil. You're gonna need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. Without it, you may get leaves, but you won't get any flower or fruit. Space is really important because depending on the type of plant you're gonna be installing, you gotta make sure it's not knocking into things like your house and other trees. The last thing would be your soil. Soil is so important because you gotta be able to hook up all of these roots to a really nice growing environment. It's time to get this thing planted. All right, we've got a pre-dug hole over here. When you dig your hole, you want it approximately twice the width of the root that we have here. We don't want to bury it too low. If we end up burying it too low, and that too low point, by the way, is right here. Can you see where this stalk is coming up and then it kind of takes a little bit of a turn? They grafted them right here. If we take and we bury it above this graft, you're gonna have nothing but a mess on your hands. The plant is gonna shoot out these suckers. It's gonna be horrible. So we do have to keep it below this graft right here. All right, we have a bunch of roots and I wanna trim off a few of them. A couple here, a couple there. We're gonna need to really mix up a little bit of soil and keep it as a base for the plant. Now, we have some really good soil here in the first place, and we also have some just delicious compost coming out of here. We want to use a 50-50 mix, by the way. So one for you, one for you, one for you, one for you. We're just going to build up an upside down ice cream cone here. So you see how that has that conical shape to it? That's so that these roots can kind of flare out over it a little bit. If we were to take our shovel and we were to use it as a measuring device, look what happens here. Oh yeah, that's well below the graft over here. Now what we want to do is we want to, again, continue our 50% mixture of our compost with a 50% mixture of our native soil, again, which came out of this hole. And you know, it doesn't have to be mixed really super well, just as long as it kind of incorporated with each other. Now the reason why we do this is because it's going to give our plants just a really good start. It's going to acclimate to this growing area very well, so that when it does end up venturing into this part of the soil here, these roots will already have had a taste of what the native soil is like. That right there is really important. So we're just going to take and mix a little bit like this. We want to pack this down, but we don't want to pack it down so tight so where the roots can't breathe. Another bit of soil, compost, and soil and compost. Well, look at this. We'll mix it up a little bit, that's fine. And we're going to build a basin around the tree. And the basin is needed for one reason and one reason only. And that's to hold moisture and water. I mean, you got a basin around the tree. You put some water in there, and the water is going to stay. It's going to go down right into these roots. If you don't have it, it may end up just going everywhere but where you want it to go. All right, get a little bit more of everything over here. Mix it up a little bit. And watch this basin form right in front of your eyes. Okay, by doing this, we're assuring ourselves that the plant's not going to settle because we've packed it in. We're also assuring ourselves that we have gotten really good connection with the soil and the roots. And on top of that, we have plenty of room for this to grow. It's not going to be bumping into anything. We're going to get that 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. I'm assuring myself that I'm going to get some really good flowers and fruit off of it. And to really kickstart this thing off, remember that water that we used to soak the roots? What we're going to do is use it in our initial watering because it has the nutrients in there that'll continue to bathe those roots and get this off to a great start. Oh, look at that. And in about 2 or 3 years, this plant will be producing for you. Let's go to Max. Max, how you doing today?
Hey, Nick, thanks for taking my call.
Sure thing. What's on your gardening mind?
I'm growing cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes in my new garden bed. I know it's not the soil, but they're not doing well. They look like they're dying.
Well, how do you know?
You can help me out.
Well, how do you know it's not the soil?
Well, I went to the nursery, and they gave me the right stuff to plant there.
Oh, okay, very good. All right. Then how much sunlight are you getting on this area?
Well, just in the morning.
Ah, just the morning, dude. That's the problem right there. You see, vegetables, in order for them to produce, you gotta have between 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight. If you don't get that, you're not gonna be able to get anything off of them, and the plants are gonna be real leggy and scraggly looking. You know, in an instance like this, you're probably a really good candidate for herbs. And we're talking about things like basil or maybe anything in the spearmint family. And the reason for that is because they're low-level, light-loving plants. And on top of that, the second you plant them, you can start grazing away.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go to Mary now. Mary, what's on your gardening mind?
Hi, Nick. Several months ago, I planted a beautiful front lawn, but now one of my trees is starting to die. It's losing all of its leaves and it looks horrible.
Oh no! Is the tree in the lawn?
Yes, it is.
Okay, are you removing the leaves after they're falling?
I am.
Okay, good for you. While you're removing the leaves, have you noticed that whether the lawn is kind of on the wet, mushy side, or is it dry? What's the story on that?
I would say it's wet.
Wet, okay. You probably have a couple of things going on over here that is really detrimental to the tree. Number one, trees do not like growing in the lawn. And the reason for that is because there's too much water that is coming from the lawn or to the lawn into the tree. So therefore it's kind of getting waterlogged. So there's a couple of things that you can do here. Number one, water only the lawn area and try to isolate the tree. And then secondly, what you'll want to do is to remove the grass from around the tree. Just come about 2 feet away, draw a circle around that, and remove that turf, and then fill that back up with bark or something decorative. And it's pretty much just that simple.
Okay, thank you very much.
Did you know that it's nearly impossible to plant a fruit tree by seed and get fruit off of it without a process called grafting? Grafting can be a difficult thing to do unless you have the right tools. I'm going to show you what you need. Then let's graft an avocado tree so you can grow your own big tasty avocados. We'll also discover how to grow plants from leaves. So join me, Nick Federoff, next time on Things Green.
Things Green is brought to you in part by
Super Thrive, the original vitamin solution. 50 vitamins and nutrients. Vitamins for trees, plants, and lawns. More information at superthrive.com.
Southland Sod Farms, creators of genuine marathon sod. Pre-grown tall fescue grass. More information at sod.com.
Dram Garden Products, makers of watering tools since the 1940s. Committed to saving water with handheld tools, hoses, and water wands. More information at dram.com.
With continued support from Cole Tomato Cages, planting, growing, and harvesting. More information at colemetals.com.
AdviceRadio.com. Live and on-demand internet radio programs. A proud sponsor of Things Green.
And by Sustainable Environmental Education, hands-on workshops, classes, and seminars. More information at csonline.org. Did you miss an episode of Things Green? Full episodes can be purchased at thingsgreen.com.